Yeah. Phone call or text? Helen?
Text.
Text.
Oh, all right. Big group or a select few friends?
Both.
Select few.
Okay. Meal out or takeaway?
Both.
Meal out.
Oh. Music or podcast?
Audiobook.
Oh, yeah, okay, yeah.
I'm going to do the both on that because I listen to music all day, but I listen to lots of podcasts as well. So.
Okay. Comfort food, sweet or savoury?
Sweet.
Savoury. They say opposites attract, don't they? So,
Favourite film, drama or comedy?
Comedy.
Deeply meaningful. I was trying to think, I love so many films. I was thinking, I actually came up with Ben-Hur as one of my favourites of all time. It's a really profound film.
He had a wristwatch on, did you notice that?
No, I didn't.
Now he's going to have to watch it again.
Yeah, that's right, it's 3 hours long.
It's just a really profound film.
Yes, very good. Okay, so tell us a little bit about yourself, your family, and your history with the SBC.
Oh gosh, well, I arrived for 18 months, nearly 30 years ago. So it was the community that kept me here. We've been married nearly 20 years now. We've got Imogen, who's 16 and is currently somewhere in the Chiltern Hills in the rain doing DV, and Reuben, who's 14. We keep chickens and hamsters and stick insects and budgies. Got quite a menagerie. I'm primarily stay at home, but I do quite a lot of voluntary work and I invigilate exams, which has been very interesting over the last year.
So I've only been here 22 years, so I'm a newbie. So I met Helen on my first Sunday here in church and never went anywhere else. This was my second church in Aylesbury. I was exploring the different churches. I was going to visit lots of them. And I came here the second week, met Helen, and the rest of is history. So I work for a company that does psychometric testing for careers guidance. So
that's a mouthful, isn't it?
It is. Sounds great, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does sound
great.
I'm
a computer geek mainly.
Yeah, we know that. Yeah, he loves spreadsheets. Right, okay, so moving on, what concerns do you have about the current environmental crisis, Helen?
Having given this a bit of thought, don't need to give it thought, but also to keep it succinct, I think one of my primary concerns is the difference in how... I think the difference in countries and nations that have resources and those that don't is just going to get so much bigger.
Okay.
But also, I'm just concerned going forwards for our future generations and the kind of world where resources are maybe tight or things are changing that they're going to have to live in.
Yeah.
So those are probably my two biggest concerns.
Thank you. Okay.
I'll just add to that. I think people are recognising there is an issue, but I think a lot of the time you hear the goals for 2030 or the goals for 2050. I think it's very easy for people to think, oh, well, it's a goal for 2050, we'll leave that to 2049.
Yes.
And like most things, if you start early, it's a lot easier. So if we start making changes now, we can hit those goals for 2050. If we leave it to 2049, we're stuffed, basically. So my concern is that there's not the urgency that perhaps... And we've shown over the last 18 months around the world, when there is a risk like COVID, how the world can step up and do things.
Absolutely.
So in that sense, I do feel optimistic that we can do things if people see the need that falls out of the sky God knows about. So he cares about this planet, and he's asked us to rule over it, which I think means care over it. So I think we've got a job to do. I think the second one is that as Christians, our lives are meant to show something of Jesus and show something that Jesus has done in our lives. And Graham was talking last week, he was doing adverts and taking the mick out of adverts. But that the world tells you that to be happy, you've got to buy, you've got to consume, you've got to have these things. And I think as Christians, we should be demonstrating that, no, our hope is in Jesus. Our hope is in the future. Our hope isn't in whether we've bought a new car or a new phone or have the latest fashionable clothes. That's not where our hope is. So rather than consuming more and more and more and more resources to try and make ourselves happy, which doesn't work because consumerism by its very nature requires you to keep buying, we should be saying, well, actually, no, a simpler life where we trust in Jesus rather than buy. So I think that's the second thing. Our character should be not about consuming, it should be about relying on Jesus. The third thing sort of reflects back to what Helen was saying really, was that care for the poor, I guess, would be the best way to mention it. The people who are going to die and suffer as a result of climate change are the poor. I mean, countries like Bangladesh have a really difficult future ahead of them. And it's not going to be just the poor nations that suffer. I mean, if you watching the news this week, I mean, look at what's happening in the west coast of America and Canada. You know, 500 people plus have died of the heat-related disorders. And you say, well, that's weather, not climate, and I'll leave it for Mark to discuss the difference between weather and climate. But these things are happening more and more and more, and people are dying. And if we care about the poor, we say we care about the poor, then we need to look at our actions and say, well, how are my actions either mitigating or contributing to those people who are suffering around the world?
Great, thank you. Do we need my talk now? This is a question. No, it's all right. It's okay.
Sorry.
Wait, it's okay, don't worry. So, Helen, thanks for that, Gareth. That was brilliant. What do you and your family do to help?
I think, on the whole, it's 1,000 little decisions. It's the decision to walk somewhere instead of taking the car. It's the decisions on what you buy when you're standing in the supermarket. I'm going to be totally honest, I find it overwhelming and exhausting at times. And that's not to diminish what we've sung already. That's when I'm very grateful that God has a plan for the salvation of the planet. But that doesn't mean I don't take responsibility in the meantime. It's the decision not to put all the knickers and pants in the tumble dryer, but to peg them out, which takes forever. It's just 1,000 little decisions. And generally, I find it takes a bit more time. It can take a bit more money sometimes, making those decisions. But in the long, it's having a longer term view and trusting that God will provide. So yes, and then there are bigger decisions, but those are the ones you tend to think about a bit more, which, you know, when you're buying a new washing machine, what level of efficiency is it and stuff like that. So more recent, what I need to come back to, I realised this the other day, I was chatting with somebody, and I tried the washing up liquid that's all eco-friendly, possibly 15 years ago or so, and I didn't like it, it didn't work, and I thought, I really need to go back and revisit some of those decisions I've made, because they must have progressed by now, and she was saying, oh no, it's fine. So yeah, and it's not hard for me to go looking in charity shops and upcycling furniture, that suits me. I think the decisions that are harder are the ones that don't suit you, and that just take a kind of decision, an act of will. But yeah.
Well done. Thank you.
I think as we were talking about it, I mean, most of the things we are doing are things that suit our character. You know, we've looked at things we can do. So, as Helen said, you know, driving the car less. Well,